Friends, in this video we are going to discuss about final modifier. So final modifier is applicable for classes, methods and variables. So what is final methods? Whatever the methods parent has by default available to the child. So suppose there is a parent class in which there are two classes M1 and M2. Suppose that for now I am just removing this final. So once child class extend this parent class, so by default all methods are available to child classes. If we want to override any method from the parent class, we can override. But once we declare a method as a final, we cannot override that method into the child class. Take next point. If child class is not allowed to override any method, that method we have to declare with final in parent class. That is, final method cannot overridden. So let's take an example. I have taken a parent class. There are two methods M1 and M2. Another is a child class. Just extends parent. Just sorry. Just extend parent. So here is a parent class with two methods, and this one is a child class that extend parent class. So by default, this M1 and M2 method will be available to this child class. If you want to override this M1 and M2 method, we can override. But once I declare, suppose that I am going to declare this M2 method as final. Once we declare any method as final, we cannot override that method into the child class. You can see that there is an error. Cannot override the final method from parent. So this is all about final method. Now move to the final class. If a class declared as a final, then we cannot create the child class, that is, any inheritance concept is not applicable for final classes. Every method present inside a final class is always final by default, whether we are declaring or not. But every variable present inside a final class need not to be final. So if we declared a class as a final, we cannot extend that class into a child class. So let's declare this parent class as a final. So once I declare this parent class as a final, you can see that we are getting an error in child class as we extended this parent class. And error is the type child cannot subclass the final class parent, means we cannot create subclass of a final class. And all the methods present inside a final class are final methods. Either we are declaring or not, this method is also final and this one is also final, but this is not applicable on variables. Now move to the final variable. What is need of final variable? Whenever a variable is declared as a final, its value cannot be changed. Once it has been initialized, this is useful for declaring constant or other values that should not be modified. The main advantage of final keyword is we can achieve security, whereas the main disadvantage, we are misusing the benefits of oops. So let's see. Just copy this variable. Sorry. Paste it in final class. Remove this final keyword. Okay. And once I am going to assign again a value in this pi, you can take something. So we are getting error here. See that there is an error. Once I remove this pi, error will be fixed. So once the value of final variable has been initialized, we cannot change that value. Now move to the conclusion part. So the main advantage of final keyword, we can achieve security. Okay, whereas the main disadvantage, we are misusing the key benefits of OOPS as like polymorphism, because we cannot override final method into the child class. Inheritance, as we cannot extend parent class into the child classes, means we cannot create subclass of a parent class. Hence there is no specific requirement, never recommended to use a final keyword. If there is not any specific or particular requirement, never go with final keyword. So this is all about final modifiers. Meet you in next video. Thanks friend.